Welcome to this Lyric That Truth podcast. I'm excited to introduce you to my guest today, Stacey Nagelkirk. You are a fellow Zealander, right?
Yes, I am.
How long have you lived in the area?
About 15 years.
Okay, 15 years.
Yeah.
And what I know about you, Stacey, is that you are a multi-passionate person for the kingdom, and you see a problem and you sort of come up with a practical way to solve these little problems in our community. So I'm excited to talk to you about that today. But first, introduce yourself. Tell me about your family.
Yes. So, like you said, Stacey Nagelkirk, live here in Zealand with my husband Joel. He is a teacher at Zealand Christian School, and our three kids, who are all at Zealand Christian as well. So we love being a part of this community. I think there's so many amazing things happening. A lot of individuals and businesses and churches that are doing really cool things, and it's just really fun and exciting to be a part of it.
Tell me about a problem that you recognize within the community and then what you did to solve that problem, because this is pretty incredible.
Thank you. Yeah. So several years ago, a guest pastor came to our church for Mission Sunday and was kind of sharing maybe hesitations that missionaries give for maybe not wanting to head into the missionary field. And one of the things was, if we sell all of our possessions and our house, where are we staying when we return to the States? And his answer really struck me. He was like, that's not your job to worry about that. That's the church as a whole.
Mhm,
That's their job to care for you in that way.
mhm.
And I kind of walked away from that sermon being like, one, is that something that the church is doing? And two, if we are doing it, are we doing it well? So God definitely just planted a seed in my heart that day. And over the next 7 years, really gave me a vision for purchasing a home in Zealand and using it to provide free housing for missionaries when they return to the States.
Well, tell me about that process. So, had you been looking at properties for 7 years? Had you just been kind of praying about it or just kind of noticing when the right opportunity crops up?
That's a really great question. Um, it was definitely a really slow evolution. It's kind of like one of those things that you think about when you're trying to fall asleep at night. And I would, in the dark, be taking notes on my phone as different ideas and thoughts popped into my head, which I totally think were from God. And so this idea kind of started formulating. And then at the end of 2022, I kind of really felt like God was stirring in my heart, like, this is the year you're going to step into starting to make this happen, which I had zero clue how that was going to happen, but just kind of started taking small steps of faith forward and figuring things out along the way. And then we ended up launching the fall of 2023.
So, launching means you buy the house or what?
Yeah, not necessarily. Launching kind of meant we started a website, became an official 501(c)(3), and just kind of started like forming a board of directors and
Mm.
starting to share with people like what we were doing and what we wanted to do. We know buying a house is very expensive. So to do that, we knew we needed some funding. So we kind of were just starting to meet with people and share what we hope to do. And we're trying to gain some traction and momentum in fundraising.
I want to hear more about this whole process because it's so fascinating to me. But I want to put a pause a second because there's people listening right now that also have dreams and ideas. And, maybe they're even doing what you were doing and then late at night, everything kind of is coming to you. And so you take time to write it down. What would be your advice? Because I know this isn't your first successful venture into like nonprofit things. What would be your advice about where to go with a dream that's bubbling up inside of you?
Yeah. My advice would be to start taking small steps forward. And if it truly is from God, He is going to provide in ways that you never thought possible. I am not equipped to do this ministry at all, but was created by an extraordinary
Mm.
God who gave me unique gifts and talents, and through His power and grace and partnership with Him in this, like, it's happening. And there's so many God stories through this. It's nothing that I've done or our board of directors has done. It is solely by the power of God that this is even taking place. So I would tell people, like, if you're truly feeling like God's calling you to do something, don't sit on it. Just start taking small steps into it. Tell a person about it and see what they say, a person that you trust. I told a spiritual mentor of mine, and she was just like, this is powerful. God is speaking to you. I think you should start taking steps for it. So,
You had that confirmation.
yes, yeah.
You
So,
didn't have everybody in your life being like, "That's a little crazy."
yeah, I mean, there were definitely people who felt that as well,
Well,
doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense
mhm,
from an earthly perspective,
mhm,
but I felt like it was a call that God had placed on
mhm.
my life, and that doesn't make sense sometime. And so,
Did you have any real relationships with, like, missionaries? Like, were your is your family in the mission field? I mean, it's like seems like
no.
you heard a thing at church and then all of a sudden, you
I
know?
know. Not really. I mean, the church that we were a part of was a big sending church. So
Okay.
a lot of families from our congregation were, on assignment throughout the world. And so we knew them. And when they would come back, would have
Mhm.
conversations with them and
Okay.
stuff like that. So, and and through those conversations and the years that God was giving me this vision, I realized this really is a need. Like,
Mhm.
people are sleeping in the basements of family and friends. And while they're so grateful for their hospitality, that's less than ideal when you're coming back and you're needing rest and respite and keeping family
Mhm.
routines and life. And so all those conversations were kind of confirmation to me as well of
Yeah.
like, this really is a need. And this can be a really great way for our church and our communities to care for missionaries in a unique way when they come back to the States.
So 2022 is when you started making those steps and
Yep.
talking to people and forming a board and all the things, which by the way, ideas are great, but you need other people to come alongside of
For
you,
sure.
right? And
Yes.
support and you need a financial person and you need a visionary and you like what characters represented do you feel like you need in a board? Like what makes a really good team?
Yes. I mean, my board of directors is absolutely amazing. This could not have happened without them. We have a previous missionary who is on our board.
Check.
Yes. We,
I would like a comfortable bed with
yes.
clean sheets and pots and pans, right?
Yes, for sure. And it's like we have a realtor on our board.
Mm,
We have like a lot of people who are just like really connected with people in the community. And I'm not just talking like financially connected, just like people who are connected with other people who are on fire for serving God and using their gifts and talents in unique ways to get involved. So, I mean, that I think honestly, if I had to like pick one thing from the past several months that has really stood out to me, it is we live in the most amazing community ever.
mhm.
And there are so many people who are willing to use their gifts and talents to serve in unique ways. Like you said, like we've had a financial planner step up from Edward Jones. Painters have come in, put a fresh coat of paint on the whole entire house. Plumbers come in, change out toilets. I mean, a neighbor willing to snow blow the driveway,
Mm.
neighbors bringing groceries, just like so many people. And that's what we want for this. Like, we want this to be a gift from the community to missionaries who left our community and are serving around the world. And it's just been really cool to see so many people step up and say, yes, we want to be a part of this. And it doesn't matter. It's not affiliated with a certain church or anything like
Right.
that. Really, anyone can be involved. And we want as many people as possible to be involved.
I think missionaries from our church are staying there. I
They
think I
are.
think they're among your first guests now that I
Yes.
think about it.
Yes.
Now, you had sort of a shower, didn't you? Where tell me about that. Or you invited people in your community to bring gifts and unbox things. Like what was that all about? I
Yeah.
thought that was so creative.
Yeah, so it's been really fun. We had an Amazon wish list that people could go on and purchase items for the house. You need a lot of things, let me tell
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
Like, starting completely, like even when I got married, like we didn't start completely from scratch. Like, we had some stuff,
Yeah.
but this is a 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, and that is a lot of stuff that you need to like fully stock and furnish this house. And we want to have it be extra, like we don't want this to be everybody's leftovers that we're
Yeah.
piecing together to put this
Right.
together.
Right.
We really wanted this to be intentional and well thought out and nice for them so that they can truly find a place of respite there. So, yeah, like one of the times we had a ton of Amazon boxes that were arriving at our house. And so I invited some of my daughter's friends and their moms, and they came over and we had an unboxing party and washed things and put them away in the cupboard and got rid of all the trash and the recycling and everything like that.
Do you
And
know what? That kind of makes me think of what you see online a lot in social media influencers is they'll have unboxings, and it's all of this stuff that companies have sent them, and they're just, it's just tons of stuff, but it's all for them.
yes,
I love that this is an unboxing party and it's for these missionaries and for this house, and it's like a twist. It's like to bless somebody else with it. And I love that too, that it's not just a bunch of collected old things, but purchase new and stocking the house well.
yes.
I bet that has been a big blessing. There's missionaries living in it currently, correct?
Yes, they just moved in on January 22. They are our first missionaries, and that was sooner than we had thought we could get the house ready. Like, our board of directors were like, we're not naive to the fact that this is going to be a ton of work. And so we kind of had the beginning of March as a launching date, but
God moved him in
yes,
early.
he crossed our paths with a missionary couple that had less than ideal housing. And we were like, this is what we've been waiting for. This is what we've been planning for. This is what we've been wanting to do. And so we made it work, and they are there right now. And I think their text message to me was my favorite part. I mean, just they were over the moon, excited to be able to have their own space, and just loved it so much. And that's a testament to everyone in our community and my board of directors who chipped in to help pull that off. And
Do you feel like you'll buy more houses? Do you feel like you'll
ugh,
keep going?
yes,
Or are we just going to sit in this one for a minute since it's
well,
freshly launched?
yes, I mean, it was a ton of work to launch that. So I definitely am like, told my family, okay, if I say that I want to buy another house in the next couple of years, tell me no. But I mean, we did call it Haven Missionary Homes, plural, for a reason. Like, we know that there is such a huge need for this. In the 1 year that we had launched our website before we even had a house, we had 25 missionary families reach out to us inquiring about staying with us. So we added all of them to a wait list. And then once we got our house, sent out an email to them saying, hey, like, we're ready to start hosting people. So
Is it no cost to them, or
it
do
is
their
no
churches
cost to
chip
them.
in? Okay.
Nope. Yep. It is entirely free. I mean, if people, if they have a housing stipend that is, allotted for that, they're welcome to make a donation, but there is zero requirement whatsoever. This is just like a gift with no strings attached to them. So, yeah.
Talk to me about some of the obstacles that you had to overcome in getting this thing off the ground, other than people moving in months earlier than you
Yes.
thought.
I
Because I think sometimes we hear these stories, right? And it's the
yes.
miracle stories and the faith stories, and then God opening the doors, and that's great. But with every dream, with every passion comes a lot of resistance. At least that's been my experience in everything I've ever tried to tackle.
Amen. Yes. Yeah. I mean, there are definitely that first year, like, we were not gaining as much traction in fundraising as we had hoped, which we realized that it's a difficult thing to fundraise for an idea that has never even happened, and so we kind of realized that. But that was like hard for me. Like, I am a go-getter, and I just kind of thought, like, God called me to this. All these pieces are going to fall into place. We're going to pay for a house in cash, and it's going to be amazing. And that wasn't really what happened. But I remained faithful in taking steps towards that. And God, I mean, the story of God bringing this house to us is like a miracle in and of itself. And not to say a great miracle that everything went great. There were tears, there was frustration, there were moments of like, is this going to happen? We did not have money to buy a house. And so we kind of put out a request, like, when we found out this house, kind of said like, hey, we need to feel confident heading into a mortgage, and we need to raise $25,000. And so that is scary. I'm not a fundraiser. And so we put that out there, but God really showed me that last year of meeting with people was not in vain. All those people we then reached out to, and they became partners with us. Like, they hadn't up until that point, but, it was like we were taking a step of faith, and all those relationships that we had started people were like excited about us moving forward with this and wanting to partner with us in that. So that was
Isn't that what I'm wondering if that's what you've noticed, because like I mentioned before, it's not the first project that you set out as a way to invest in the community and give back and provide something at no cost to somebody. This is, I don't know, second or third time you've done something of this magnitude, and there's always roadblocks. But when you said that you were just faithful in the little things, can you give me a practical example of overcoming some of that? Do you just kind of go, oh, I had this dream. I feel like it's God ordained, so I'm just going to keep plowing through? Or do you look at it from a different perspective? Walk me through that.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I don't know, to be honest. I mean, there were definitely moments of like feeling like maybe this isn't going to happen.
Mm,
And I honestly had released that to God and was holding my own plans very loosely. Like,
mm,
I was like, God, this is what I feel like you're calling me to. I'm moving forward with this, but I wasn't naive to the fact that I could have just been a piece of the puzzle. And maybe I wasn't the person that was going to fully, make this happen. Maybe I was just going to be a part of making it happen for somebody else, or,
hmm
and
right.
so I don't know. I just kind of sat with that and just like let that happen and just held my own plans loosely and just kept moving forward. There were definitely like you go to a meeting with somebody and you felt like that didn't really
Mm.
go anywhere,
Sure.
and I would allow myself time like, okay, I'm taking a week off of, pursuing this and just like
Hmm.
allowing myself to re-energize. I did that for a whole summer right up before we purchased this house. I kind of was like, I'm just going to take some time, enjoy my family this summer, enjoy summer, and then kind of hit it again in the fall and see what happens. And so,
Your identity wasn't really tied into whether or not this was going to be successful. You held it loosely with the Lord. You felt like you should still be faithful in making steps toward it, but your identity wasn't going to be wrapped up into whether or not it was successful. Because if
e-
it was going to be successful, then God would ultimately open the doors.
exactly. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I mean, that is hard. I mean, it's like, yeah. And I don't mean to like, I've heard people tell stories like this before, and be like, well, that's really nice for them that worked out that way, and I
Yeah,
realize that everything doesn't work out that way. And I've been a part of situations like that
sure.
that don't work out the way that you had hoped or that you thought God was calling you to. But for this, it did.
But then after the dreams and the late night note taking and ideas and the conversations and the assembling the board and the property coming for sale and all of the things, the Amazon wish list, everything that's a part of it, all the details. Last week you had a chance to move in the first missionary couple. How did that feel?
Amazing. It was, yeah, there were like, there were tears of joy for sure. Like, yeah, I just feel like to see something that you've worked so hard in and that you feel like God's called you to, and just to know, to see their excitement about being there. And I think they said it best. Like, they are like, we're looking around this house and thinking about all the missionaries who will stay here and how this will bless them. And, I just think that's what it is. Like, their mom sent us an email just saying how excited they were and that they FaceTimed them and gave them a tour of the house, and how they kind of felt, like some of the things that we had done were like extra special touches that really made them feel like this is their home while they're here.
Like what?
And
Come on, brag,
yeah.
brag a little bit. Tell me about some of these
Yeah.
extra special
I
touches.
mean, we want it to be more than just giving them a house. We
Hmm.
really want to holistically care for them while they're here. And we know that they have church partners, an ascending team, and all these people who are rallying for them. But we also want to rally for them while they're here. So we have a prayer team in place that's praying over
Mm.
specific prayer requests that the missionaries were able to
Wow.
share with us.
Wow.
We had a welcome basket full of like local treats and goodies and gift cards to restaurants and stuff like that, and a note for them.
Wow.
We printed personal pictures. I mean, like, every house has pictures of them, of you and your family hanging around the house. So we printed pictures of them that they shared with us and
Hmm.
had them in frames throughout the house, and
Really? Mm.
provided groceries for them for the first couple days to help them get settled so that they don't have to rush off to the grocery store. Just like a lot of really things. Like, we wanted to be really intentional about caring for them well, and not just being like, here's a house, whatever. Like, we really want this to feel like a hug. Like, this is like, we are embracing you while you're here. Like, we want to care for you well. We want this to be an amazing time of rest and respite and reflection and rejuvenation for you. And so, yeah, we just kind of try to think of as many little ways and little touches that we could do that would make missionary families feel like, wow, they really thought about us. And
Did you collect feedback from missionaries about what would be nice?
yeah,
I mean,
we
is that how you
we
came up
did.
with all these
No,
great ideas?
I mean, to be honest, these are the things that would come to me in the middle of the night that I
Ah,
totally feel like were from the hand of God. But
sure.
we did. The missionaries that we kind of already knew from our church, we reached out to them before I even launched this and just kind of said, hey, this is like what God is stirring in my heart. Is this a need? Like, we don't want to recreate the wheel. At one point, I kind of thought I could jump on board and help somebody else if they're already doing this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we just kept hearing that it was such a need, and they were able to give, feedback of like, okay, we wouldn't want it to be on a busy street. We'd want it to have like a fenced in backyard, like for little kids, and have this many bedrooms, or, they were able to share things with us that kind of helped us be able to create a home that really is specific for missionary families.
Is this your full-time job?
Oh goodness, no.
This is just an extra project.
This is my passion project.
Passion project.
Yeah, and so yeah, my actual job is I run my own elderberry syrup company.
Okay.
And so that's what helps pay the bills. And
Yeah, because I saw you at a health store that we were broadcasting live from.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I do. And for my actual job, and I do this and a few other things for things that light me up. And yeah.
Well, one of the things I'm taking from this conversation is honestly the idea when the ideas start coming, and whenever that is for you, it seems like it was like late at night, get out your phone and use that notes app, right?
Yes.
Because by the morning, you'll totally forget
For
half of these
sure.
great ideas.
For sure.
And to hold it loosely and not tie your identity in the idea being successful, but like, okay, God, and then you seek out the people for confirmation that you're going along the right path, and you team up with people maybe that fill in the gaps where you lack.
Yeah.
And then also when you achieve the thing, just sitting in that moment and really just thanking God for providing it. Incredible. Now we'll link your website at the in the show notes at the end of the podcast.
Okay.
So if you have missionaries that want to apply, is there sort of a time limit that they can stay and have to be out by? How does that look?
Yep, they can stay up to 2 months. So
Okay.
any time frame, 2 months or less is what we're kind of doing. We know that there are some needs for longer term stay, but we just kind of said for our first house that we wanted to be able to serve more families. And so
Right.
we kind of limited the time frame on that so that would allow us to be able to serve more families. But who knows, down the road, maybe we'll have a house that's open for people to stay more long term if they're coming back for a longer sabbatical or something.
Okay. So from elderberry syrup to Haven Missionary Homes and the other projects you've been involved with, talk to me about the lyrics that really stood out to you from Emerson Days. God ain't finished yet.
But I know where I stand, Lord. I trust your plan, Lord. It's all in your hands, Lord. If I'm still here, then you're not done.
I can remember the day I heard the song on Joy 99, and it just resonated with me. And it kind of felt like my anthem of why I did this and when I did it. Both my dad and my husband's dad died in their early 60s, and they just they didn't have the opportunity to maybe pursue, some dreams that they wanted to, or vacations, or, the things that you think like, oh, when I get more time or when I retire, I'm going to do those things. And what I learned from both of their losses is like, my days aren't guaranteed. I can't wait. If I feel like God is calling me to something, I can't sit on that and think, oh, when my kids are older, or when we're not so busy, or when I retire, that's kind of what spurred me on to step into this maybe sooner than I would have ever done. Like, we're in a busy season with 3 younger kids and a busy family. But I just kind of, this song, it's like, I'm still breathing. God has put me on this earth for a purpose and a plan. And I felt like he was calling me to this. And I didn't want to sit on it and be like, no, later, no, I don't have time. Yeah. So that's kind of what encouraged me to step into it was those losses and just the realization that you don't know how long you have. And so if God put me here to do a missionary house, then that was what I wanted to step into sooner rather than later.
In getting to know you a little bit better throughout this conversation, it doesn't seem like now that the first couple's moved in that you're just going to like take a break.
Maybe a slight break, but maybe, yeah.
Oh, what a joy getting to know you better. Thank you for making such a big impact within our community. And do you still have an active Amazon wish list that we could link? And if people wanted to contribute to that, they could.
Yes, we most definitely do. To get the house ready for this couple, we just got the main floor ready.
Okay.
So we still have 3 other bedrooms, a whole living space in the basement, etc. that need stuff that we kind of hit pause on until this family moves out. So yes, there is a lot of stuff on our Amazon wish list still that if people wanted to hop on, it ships directly to us. And I just think it's really cool because we're not looking for someone to donate $100,000. You know, we're looking for someone to buy a $5 Uno game, you know, and
Yeah.
that like we are looking for a person to donate $100,000. But you know what I mean? It's just like we just want as many people to be involved as possible and do what you can. And it's like that matters too, you know? So I think the Amazon wish list is a great way to get people involved.
You know, Stacey, I think fundamentally what I've encountered, you know, you had mentioned earlier that you're not a fundraiser. I really am a fundraiser. And what I have noticed in feedback from people, especially if you're getting caught up in your own head or your own anxiety or your own overwhelm or your own frustration with the world, or like this attitude, like everything out there is just bad, you know, give, turn that on its head by being generous and giving. And all of a sudden you'll notice that you're not as attached to stuff. And so even if it's a $5 Uno game, or you invite your kids to look at the list and say, what games do you enjoy? What do you like? You know, these missionary kids will enjoy this as well.
Yeah.
You know, you get involved and you focus on something that's greater than yourself. And you start to notice you sort of like feel better.
Yes.
You know, I mean, the Bible knew what it was talking about. God loves a joyful giver, because I think that's a great way to grow in joy.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me and giving me this opportunity.
You serve our community in a beautiful way. And so keep going, keep dreaming, keep overcoming those obstacles, because our community needs you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of This Lyric, That Truth. If you were inspired by today's conversation, feel free to share it with a friend and leave a 5-star review. If you're looking for more hope and encouragement in your music, download the Joy Media mobile app for free wherever you download your apps. I'm Ceci, and I so look forward to sharing more in-depth conversations with you as we talk about the lyrics that encourage us and shape our lives. Meet me back here next week for another episode of This Lyric, That Truth.